How is it going, everybody? I am Jay Gibson, joined alongside Kevin Barral. And Kevin, what we saw today was, I think, pretty exciting. It's the first ever press conference for head coach Willie Simmons, addressed to all of Panther Nation, both football players, coaches from a lot of sports, and quite a bit of media was there to see the Scott Carr, Dr. Kenneth Jessel, and of course, head coach Willie Simmons talk about the expectations and whatnot. And we were also able to talk with Coach Simmons afterwards, you, myself, and Walt from the Miami Herald. So shout out Walt, I guess. And just one hell of a day, Kevin. Just what were your general thoughts on what went down at the GC pit?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't have gone any better, to be honest with you. Just after the press conference, you feel like you kind of run through a brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely everything that Coach Simmons said, that Willie Simmons said, was great. Honestly, couldn't have gone any better. I think it's tough to really say what specifically stood out. Definitely said, and he said it when he addressed the team the first time, that he wants to win championships. He wants to host the Conference USA Championship here at Pitbull Stadium, which would be pretty damn sweet if you ask me. But no, man, look, he also spoke that he wants to retain guys, and that's definitely something that FIU wants to do. They want to retain players, and something that I know he wants to do, that Scott Carr wants to do, that everyone wants to do. So that was important. He also mentioned how important to him it is to recruit in South Florida, make sure that he makes sure that he brings guys in and retains them throughout their entire 4-year time here at FIU. And he also spoke about the values of, academics and making sure they're on their stuff about that. So definitely a very great press conference. We spoke to him after. He said that he had spoken to Keywan. He had spoken to Eric Rivers. We saw some of the head coaches there. Not the head coaches, I'm sorry. Some of the coaching staff there.
Yeah.
More, like DeWitt, Anthony Gator was there, and some others were also there. So man, I mean, couldn't have gone any better. It was a great time. Very good vibes from start to finish. Great guy. We spoke to him a little bit. Very excited to see what he can do, and he's going to come on the pod at some point. So that should be fun.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get Willie on eventually to talk about a lot of stuff. But for now, he did say a few things that I think are worth mentioning. Kevin, you mentioned he wants to win he wants to host a Conference USA championship game, but that's not the bar. That's not the bar from him. He wants to be a top 25 program. He wants to be in the college football playoff, part of the 12-team playoff. That's bold, Kevin. That's a pretty bold thing to say in your first press conference. It's something that people are going to remember for a while, that he said that they want to be part of it. Now, because obviously there's one group of 5 opponent that is going to make the 12-team college football playoff every year. This year it's Boise State. They actually have a first-round bye, so they're actually going to have a week off.
Hopefully they make it to the Orange Bowl.
Yeah. So it's interesting that he said that. He also mentioned a few other things that I thought were interesting, such as he brought up the win over Miami at Marlins Park, which was cool. And of course he had to highlight not FAU, not Florida Atlantic, the school from the school from Boca, as he put it. So it's interesting to see that he's already well versed in the FIU football culture that we have here, and he's not afraid to say some bold stuff, Kevin.
He certainly is not, but that's good to see, and it's good to see the confidence. And he wants to win, man. He wants to win. I mean, everything that he said indicates that he wants to win championships. He doesn't want to win them in a couple of years. He wants to win it this year, which is honestly something very refreshing to listen to. I don't think we've really heard that in a very long time, to be honest with you, Jake. So it's good to hear that that he wants to win, and he wants to win now, which is it's as encouraging as it gets, in my opinion.
Now, when you and I and Walt got to speak with Coach Simmons afterwards, they put us in like an auditorium right next to the pit. One thing he did say, and you brought it up, was retaining talent. I believe you were the one that asked about players such as Keywan Jenkins, Eric Rivers, JoJo Evans, and whatnot, and talk about, has he been talking to them? And he said he is, and then he has talked to them, and that he's interested in retaining them. So just talk a bit about how you think those conversations went down and the expectations you have for some of those players like Jenkins, JoJo, Eric Rivers, Dean Patterson, and all these others that have put their names in the portal.
Yeah, I mean, you got to assume that he's been talking to them. He spoke to Keyone, he spoke to Eric Rivers. JoJo Evans put his name in today. Was not aware he had another year of eligibility. I thought he was done.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us did. So I think he was granted that one final year, and he's going to use it. And I mean, rightfully so. He should definitely try to explore his options and see where he could go. So I'm interested to see, what those conversations were like. I asked him for what his pitch has been from what he could tell us. So, if you want to listen to that, I definitely suggest you to go check it out right here, actually, on our YouTube channel, and as well on my Twitter. I put the full interview after. So, yeah, definitely encouraging for him to say that he believes that he will be able to retain guys. Because just because you entered the transfer portal doesn't mean you're not gonna leave. Obviously, you could come back, and even some guys may not even want to have entered, but they had to go out there and kind of see what's up. So definitely encouraging a lot of what he said. And I mean, what's more, I'm happy with the statements. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, there can definitely be some players that see what they have, and based on the offers they get or the offers that they don't get, they can come back and decide that, okay, maybe FIU is the place to go. Don't want to really point out any specific names here, but there was one player who has entered the transfer portal that got some FCS offers, but nothing FBS wise. So maybe that could mean that he might be heading back to FIU, because again, it's FBS Conference USA. There is a chance, a slim chance, but a chance that if what Willie Simmons says is true and that this FIU team is going to win now, that can a Conference USA team be in the college football playoff? It'd be pretty hard, I think, Kevin, but I'd say it's possible. But aside from that, it was just cool seeing the excitement he had talking about all things FIU. I know Scott and Dr. Kenneth Jessel have probably been gassing him up about the university ever since he said yes, even before that. And we've seen bits and pieces of what he's already spoken to the team about at Pitbull Stadium. And now, Kevin, I'm excited to see what his next move is, because you do have, and I think we'll try to make it to them, Kevin, the high school state championship games right here at Pitbull Stadium. I guarantee you Coach Simmons will be there and try to take full advantage of that.
I believe his alma mater is also playing in that game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he is there. So, yeah, definitely a good opportunity for him to be out there. Crap. And obviously just recruit. It's a hotbed, man. Florida's a hotbed of recruiting. You got to give it a shot. So definitely excited to see what he could do. And he not only could recruit South Florida, but I believe he will be able to recruit North Florida and even Georgia. I mean, I asked him, look, I know you want to recruit down here, but you were up in FAMU, very close to the Tallahassee area. You were fighting with FSU for players. You have an opportunity to go back up there, bring them to the FBS level instead of FCS, and even go to Georgia, which is pretty damn good in terms of recruiting. So there's a lot of options that Willie's going to have in terms of recruitment, and I'm excited to see how he uses them. And I'm more excited to see how he will attack the transfer portal, something, unfortunately, we didn't get to ask him today, but I'm sure we will be able to ask him at on the podcast or at some point in the near future, just how he plans to attack the transfer portal, which nowadays you need to have NIL to win, and you need to have NIL to bring in players. But even then, you could still have guys who are looking for an opportunity to come play, get some playing time. And that's what you're looking at, the Chaden Perrys, the Juju Lewises of the world that come from the Power Five. So yeah. I'm interested to see how he's going to attack that aspect of college football, I guess, if you want to say. And obviously he still needs to build a staff. So I'm interested to see what type of staff he builds.
I'm interested too. And there are a lot of coaches that I hope he retains, Kevin, being Javon Dewitt and Gator, just to name a couple.
Again, they were there. So
they were there. Yeah. Speaking of people who were there, obviously Rich Witten, who it's always fun to see Coach Witten, Kevin. He even said he's down to hop on the pod soon. So that happened. Pretty much every FIU member of the creative team, media, et cetera, was there. It's always fun catching up with them. You obviously have Corey Brooks, Heath Glick, the entire FIU athletics org, top to bottom, talking about it. And how many football players were there, Kev? We saw
decent
few. We saw Dayton Montiel was one of them. Shout out Dayton.
Former player now, but yeah, he was there.
Yeah, he was there. So yeah, I think a lot of football players already rallying around this guy, and I'll say this, Kevin, and you weren't around when this happened, so take it with a grain of salt. But I do feel a bit more excited about the direction head coach Willie Simmons can take FIU right after that press conference more than when me and Johnny, when we were with Panther Now, were at the Mike McIntyre press conference back then. Because back then he said a lot of kind of similar things that, thankful for the opportunity, and South Florida is a great market and whatnot. But with what we've seen these past few years, and also with the way that Simmons himself spoke, he's a very well spoken man, and he delivered on a lot of his lines. I definitely feel a bit more excited now about what he can do compared to Coach Mack. And I was excited as hell after Coach Mack, but yeah, I think there was definitely something a bit more, I guess, empowering with what Willie said.
Definitely. I definitely felt like a little jolt when you just hear him say, that little school up there in Boca Raton. So I was pretty excited. And it's going to be cool because, you think about it, HBCUs are big on rivalries.
Yeah.
So is college football in general. And I think Coach Simmons is really going to take this rivalry as serious as it gets. That one, if they ever end up playing them. So you got to think about it. As much as you want to win, the little things matter too. Beating a team like an FAU, beating your in-state rivals, even if they're better than you, just putting up a fight against them, And we were talking about this, and I know you asked him today, he's going to have a tough schedule, man.
Yeah.
You've got to begin the season, and we'll see who it is. I think it'll be an FCS team. Usually it is.
Yeah, usually.
Then you've got Penn State, FAU, and UConn. FAU's rivalry game, that may be a win, but FAU now has Zach Kitley. That guy was from Texas Tech, air raid offense. You saw what Cliff Kingsbury did, in his transition to the NFL and turning an offense around, and what he did at Texas Tech. So he was around there for that time. So I look at that, and the conference schedule doesn't get much easier. You're bringing in Delaware. And you're bringing in
Missouri State.
You have Jacksonville State, Western Kentucky, Liberty, Kennesaw. I mean, it's a tough conference, man. It's a tough conference nonetheless. I think it's going to get better and better. A lot of new head coaches in the conference.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but definitely going to be an interesting time for Willie Simmons. But I think he has everything to be better. And, we're talking to some people, Jake, and one thing to note is at FAMU, he did not have the resources he's going to have here. For him, looking
Absolutely.
at the resources at FIU is going to be incredible. If he was going 12-1, winning 9 games for the last 4 seasons at FAMU before his tenure ended over there, imagine what he could do here at FIU, So it's exciting, man. I'm excited. I can't wait. I mean, this is a winning coach with a winning background. FIU's in a good spot. I think so, at least. And they're going to win, man. They're going to win some games.
To provide some context on how brutal this non-con schedule is probably going to be, Penn State is going to host SMU in the first round of the college football playoff on the 21st. UConn is going to take on North Carolina at the Fenway Bowl. I'm sure that's probably a pretty fun bowl game to go to over there at Fenway Park. FAU is kind of down to the dumps, but they have historically been really good against FIU, so there's that. And then, we don't know the FCS team. I hope they kind of keep it close instead of like these Long Island teams where it's like Northeast. I hope it's kind of like one of the more southern FCS teams. That'd be kind of interesting to see. But yeah, he's gonna have his work cut out for him, Kevin. I'll want to ask you. I guess we can kind of close up here. There's not a whole lot much to talk about the press conference, right? I mean, it was good, but I don't think it was anything super controversial. I wish he would have said something like, "I hate FAU," and then we can clip that and turn it into a meme, kind of like the lights out with Coach McIntyre. But based on what you saw today, some of the messages he delivered, obviously, I'm not exactly sure how you felt FIU would do next season when it was first announced that Willie Simmons would be the head coach. But now that you've seen him in person, you've seen what he's had to say, how he's talked to some former players who have entered the transfer portal and current players on this roster. Has your idea of how well you think FIU could do, has it changed in these last 24 hours based off of what we saw today?
Just from what I hear in the backgrounds and behind the scenes, that definitely makes you feel like this team is going to be competitive. I mean, again, 5 one-score losses. I mean, that just doesn't happen, man. That barely happens.
It's wild.
So, definitely think that maybe 1 or 2 of those go your way. You're looking at a different situation, and obviously beating an FCS team would be nice every once in a while. So, I definitely feel pretty good going into the season. You have a lot of returners, nonetheless, at least on the defensive side of the ball. Unfortunately, you're losing your whole offensive line, but Willie's already gotten to work, man. He already offered a 4-star recruit who he was recruiting over at Duke to come here to FIU. Yeah. That's pretty. I'm excited about that. So we'll see what happens. But definitely got to feel good. Maybe today we feel really good, and we're gonna feel good just like you already want September to come around or August. To come around just to see what FIU looks like against their first opponent with Willie Simmons as the head coach and what they look like in the spring or, this quarterback competition that we may have if Q1 doesn't end up coming back. So I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. I want to see what's going to happen and definitely feel good. Maybe, we could tamper expectations once we get very close to this season, once we see the polls. But it's a new era, man. I think everyone said it today. It feels like a refreshing new era of FIU football, and I'm pumped.
I by the way, I asked Willie about how much he's going to target both high school and via the transfer portal previous areas that he's worked at, such as Prairie View A&M in the state of Texas, as well as Duke in North Carolina. He said they will. They said they're going to weigh all their options, but they're going to set up base first here at South Florida because, I mean, why would you not? Especially because, like we talked about, the high school championships are going to be here in like a few days. That's going to be recruitment central for this FIU squad, I'm sure. So yeah, by the way, when I asked about the Conference USA opponents, they said it was like fighting dragons, something along the lines of fighting dragons and slaying your dragons, which is okay. It's kind of neat, but yeah, I'm definitely excited to see the next move head coach Willie Simmons makes, regardless of what that may be. So I think we'll close up here, Kev. Any final thoughts on what we saw today and any other expectations you may have?
No, man. And I was just about seeing how he attacks the portal. It opened today, so I'm sure we're going to be seeing some action on that side of things and seeing just how he builds out the staff. I'm excited to see the possibilities that he has. And I've been looking at a lot of potential OC candidates recently. I think DC is going to get solved sooner rather than later, I would have to assume. So we'll see what happens.
I think we'll close it up there. Thank you to everybody who followed our coverage today. Like I said, go check out our YouTube channel. You can watch the one-on-one interviews with Kevin, myself, and Walt from the Miami Herald and what we asked head coach Willie Simmons right after his press conference, which, by the way, was on ESPN Plus. I think you can still watch it on ESPN Plus. It's on demand. And Kevin, I saw that when we asked the questions, they zoomed in on our faces, which was pretty interesting.
I didn't. I was watching back.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So definitely go and check that out. Check and just as more and more things transpire, we'll be there. Obviously, we'll try to get some coverage from the high school championship games and some other cool events coming up. So have a great rest of the night, everybody. From Jake and myself, just saying so long and Paws up.
Paws up.